Our guest tonight is WWE Hall of Fame announcer Jim Ross. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm good, thanks. Very good.
Listen, while most fans know you as a legendary wrestling announcer, you have been quite busy since your WWE career came to an end. Between the Ross Report on Podcast One and your success with JR's Barbecue, you are still very much a part of the wrestling lexicon. How has your perspective of the business changed now that you're more on the outside looking in? And do you miss being on the front lines of the industry?
Well, I don't watch as much or as religiously as I used to. I'm more dependent now on my DVR than I am to make sure I'm in front of the TV when things are live. But I try to watch as much as I feel like I need to maintain my accuracy and have a valid opinion for my podcast. I feel obligated to watch all product that I can, so that the Ross Report is accurate and I can give valid opinions on things that I do see. But, if I told you I watched this as much as I always did and I was just as excited about it as I was when I was working in it, then I would be less than truthful. And, I miss game day. I miss seeing a lot of my friends and things of that nature, the adrenaline rush you get with the live crowd. But I certainly do not miss the travel in a non-seasonal business. So it's it's a mixed bag. I'm still a fan, certainly not bitter, not angry, just I'm busy, and I just don't have the time to make sure I'm watching a show live like I probably would when I was working in WWE.
Mike Chiari?
A lot of fans are obviously aware of the impact you had in WWE as an announcer, but you also played a key role on the talent relations side, and you were responsible for bringing in several legendary superstars. But of all the signings you made in WWE, which sticks out to you as the biggest coup and the one that you're most proud of today?
Well, it's a difficult question because you're essentially asking someone to select their favorite child. And I don't know that that's very easy to answer. I think the biggest steal that we got was signing Stone Cold Steve Austin, who Vince really had no familiarity with, and I did down in when we worked together at WCW. So when he became available and he was healthy after a short run at ECW, I thought that was a big get and a steal. The biggest overachiever that I ever hired probably was Mick Foley, because he's another guy that WWE did not want. And I finally, through, dogged salesmanship, convinced Vince McMahon to let's give him a try, because we were running out of heels for Undertaker to work with. It's very challenging when you have a 7-foot baby face. You have to be very selective now. You match them up with the right heels to work with. So I thought Mick and Undertaker they knew each other from previous promotions, and Undertaker thought that it was a good idea when I talked to him about trying to bring Mick in. And so Mick was probably the biggest overachiever. And the guy that's gone on, obviously, that we signed, that has gone on to become the biggest star of the group as it relates to his movie work and his notoriety around the world, is Dwayne Johnson. So we had a good run there, and several classes were good. I heard I wasn't home to watch Raw Monday. I watched it on DVR, but I did see Heyman talking about the class of 2002. And that was one of our better groups, with Batista and Cena and Orton and Brock. All good. That was a good class. So I pride myself in the fact that we were diligent in recruiting. We found out about the people. We coached them up. We had a great staff. We had great instructors. We had great scouts. It was a team effort totally. But I feel I'm very honored that I had an opportunity to facilitate open the door for some of those guys to live their dream. That was a lot of fun.
BG?
Yeah, Jim, I'm sure you can understand how confusing it is for fans to hear people in the company talking about wrestlers like Stone Cold and CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, Dolph Ziggler, Cesaro, and other fan favorites not being seen as top-tier talents. Is it possible for you to give us some insight into the decision-making of a company and why a wrestler fans deem as a top-tier talent may not be viewed in the same light by management?
Well, it's real difficult for me to relate to management now because I'm long gone from WWE. I don't know how they manage their day-to-day. I don't know how their meetings are. I had a very unique relationship with Vince. Back when I was hiring talent, I hired the talent. I was talking to J.J. Dillon, who's coming up on a podcast, and when J.J. would get tapes or recommendations or whatever from talent, he always had to go through Vince. And when I took over for J.J., Vince wanted me to retool and redesign the talent relations department. So one of the things that I had to have to make it better, in my opinion, was his trust that my judgment in looking and seeing viable, marketable talents was viable. And so I hired talents that Vince had never seen, and he trusted me because they were my responsibility. They were on my watch. So I didn't obviously want to fail, but I can't really tell you what's going on there now. You got to believe that WWE listens. So I guess they don't. They don't do my ideas, so they don't listen. Well, we don't know what they're planning next month or next week or Monday or Sunday or whatever. I don't anyway. So I think that at the end of the day, the cream will rise to the top. It may sound oversimplistic. I think at the end of the day, if the fans will steer the course and continue to support their favorites, the cream will rise to the top, because the business in general is it's not in a crisis situation, but a near crisis situation when it relates to having a adequate amount of skilled main event talent depth. There are skilled main event talents without question, but the depth issue is startling, and I think fans are right now ready for something new and things that are new. And some of the guys you mentioned, I believe, to be have adequate and, well, more than adequate, significant potential to be main event stars. But they've got to be given the ball, and they've got to be given the ball positively, and they got to be built. So there's a process you have to go through. The commitment's got to be made by the company. Long-term planning's got to be in effect. The company's got to have confidence in the talent. And there's other issues that you and I aren't aware of. There could be issues internally that the company, for whatever reason, doesn't have confidence in a talent. And maybe those reasons are kept private for confidentiality reasons or legal reasons or whatever. I don't know. But the issue is that I'd rather look at the glass half full. Life is too challenging to go through wondering and bitching and moaning about this, that, and the other. It's just if the guys steer the course and they prove themselves to be good locker room leaders, good members of the team, they improve their skill set, they add things to their game, then they have a chance to move up the ladder into the main event level and make more money. But it's for some guys it comes late, for some guys it comes easy. But it will come if it's meant to be. And but there's no magic formula. There's no secret clandestine meetings. And for God's sakes, the WWE is not so aloof that they're going to say, well, we're going to do this because we like it, and we don't care what our customers like. That's just that's so immature and so stupid for anyone to think that. And there are some fans, because I get it on Twitter all the time, that do think that. They think that WWE believes that they are so omnipotent they can do whatever they want, whether you like it or not. And where's the advantage in doing that? There is none. So I can't answer your question, but at least I give you a little bit of background on it.
Awesome. Listen, for those fans who've listened to the Ross Report, we know you're a wrestling historian. You know so much about the wrestling business. We believe you're one of the top play-by-play announcers in wrestling history. We're not alone. Everybody almost feels that way. You have worked next to several of the most entertaining color commentators in the business. If you could commentate one final wrestling match with any color commentator of your choice, living or deceased, who would it be and why?
Oh gosh, I don't know. That's another tough. That's the same thing, no matter what I say, and that's the thing about these interviews. Whatever I say is going to be dissected. I wrote a blog today about these rumors about me in New Japan. But no matter what I say, some people just are going to read into it what they choose. My longest tenured run was with Jerry Lawler. And we could go back and work tomorrow, probably call on just about any sport or any entity and be entertaining. The partner that probably, because he agitated me and knew the buttons to push, as did I with him, and we got the most combustible delivery and presentation was Paul Heyman. The partner that probably goes off the radar that was absolutely outstanding was Jim Cornette. But, of course, much like JBL and myself working together, we would be considered by the mainstream TV world as being too Southern. So that'll never happen. But Cornette would be awesome. JBL would be very good. Taz was fun to work with because we had such a contrast in sound. I love working with Terry Funk. He's probably he's probably the most underrated guys I work with. Bob Caudle is by far the most underrated announcer in the history of the business. I love working with Bobby Heenan. Gorilla Monsoon was like an uncle. So you see what I'm saying about all these guys. I have relationships with these people. I have friendships with these people. It's harder for me to say than to ask the question, okay, you got one more match, and you can work with anybody you want. Who would it be? Well, then the next question is, okay, what would that match be? Hell, I don't know. I don't know. You beats me. Where would that match be? Well, it'd be WrestleMania. Well, what arena? What arena would you want to do it in? So that's where you are. So there's no right answer. I loved all those guys. They all made me better. I was very blessed to work with some very, very talented people. I loved working very limited, but it was and at the end of his run, and he was having issues, but nonetheless, I really enjoyed my experience working with Gordon Soley, different style. Like I said, the Bob Caudle run was excellent. I never got to work with Lance Russell, which I'd love to have done. And I, quite frankly, the guy that from day one that I had the most chemistry with thus far on the first day was Chael Sonnen. So, and that was, we've only worked once. So it was a natural fit. So I don't know that I can answer the question for you because those reasons. Those guys are like family members to me, and they're friends. And you boys are young, and you're going to learn this maybe the hard way someday. When you get older, you're going to be able to count all your great friends on one hand. Trust me. And it's not a bitter guy talking. I'm not pissed off, nothing. I'm just telling you the truth. And there's a lot of guys I named on that commentator list that I hope that at the end of the day that I can call those guys my friends and that we are still friends until, they put us all away. So it's just a tough deal to answer. They all brought different things to the table, and we had, a lot of fun doing it, and they all made me better, and I hope that I helped contribute to making them a little bit better as well.
Like you said before, it's like picking your favorite kid. Well, my parents never had that problem. Some parents tend to, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Mike Chiari.
You and your voice are synonymous with a lot of the greatest and most memorable moments in wrestling history. But what's maybe one match or one moment that you didn't get a chance to call from the announce table that you would like to if you could go back in time and make it happen?
Well, I think probably the match that I would have like to call would have been the main event at WrestleMania 3 because it was such a groundbreaking event. And if you're going to be a part of any groundbreaking event, you want to be a part of the main event of it. So I would say Hogan and Andre at WrestleMania 3 would have been. It was a very simplistic match to call. It would have been very easy to call it from a standpoint of what they did, but the drama that one could add to the moment and to what the match meant, and looking in the big picture, and some broadcasters show up and do their gig and leave, and that's all it is, a payday. I always looked at it more than that and looked at the big picture. And the big picture for the Hogan-Andre match was that it was going to really create a buzz for the business, and it was going to make the business better for everybody because it was going to create a great awareness of pro wrestling. So I would have to say right now, off the top of my head, probably Hogan and Andre, WrestleMania 3, would have been a real fun match to have called.
BG?
To piggyback off Mike's question, is there a match or moment that you called that you wish you could do over?
Yeah, I probably a lot of them if I went back and listened to them. I'm my own worst critic. That's one of the advantages that I've enjoyed of the WWE network that I subscribed to on day one, and I'm certainly renewing is or have renewed is I go back and listen to all of my work on some of those old pay-per-views in WCW and WWE, which I never heard back. I never went back and listened to them. That's like we're working on our book right now, my autobiography, and we're getting close to the point where we're going to start talking about the death of Owen Hart, and I got to go back and look at that segment of that pay-per-view in 1999, and I haven't looked at it ever. Pardon me. And so I'm kind of dreading that, to be honest with you. I purposely haven't looked at it. I didn't want to see it again. I lived it. That was enough. But I think that I could have probably done a better job of calling the Shawn Michaels Ric Flair retirement match. It just seemed that our timing at the table at that night was off to me for what I felt like the match deserved. And but that's neither here nor there. But I always look back at that match and said, well, you know, it was Ric's last match in WWE, and it was Shawn was in the ring with him, and it was a big deal. And I'd like to have, you know, I was the third guy in the booth, I think. I'm not sure. I think it was Lawler and Cole and I. And, you know, I'm not a big three-man in the booth guy, but not that it can't work. It can, but it seems to not work more often than it does to me. But I think the Flair Michaels match at WrestleMania 24, I'd like to have had another shot at it.
Well, listen, you mentioned earlier your relationship with Vince McMahon. It's well documented that you've had a tumultuous relationship with him and the WWE over the years. How would you describe the relationship between yourself and Mr. McMahon now?
It's actually very good. You know, we text from time to time, and we talk on the phone from time to time. Not a lot, not regularly, but you know, it's fine. You know, Vince and I got along really, had a tremendous relationship. People got to understand where our relationship started, and from day one, what we built and what we survived. And, you know, this company was almost bankrupt at one point in time, and we were laying people off right and left and taking pay cuts, and a lot of people were bailing. And those of us that stayed loyal were rewarded for it financially. And I had and a lot of people don't even know this. You know, I I signed at one point with him. I can't remember what year it was. It was a mid to late, about mid-'90s. I signed a 10-year contract. And I don't know that anybody in the history of WWE's ever had a 10-year contract with Vince, and they honored it. But I have this big thing called keeping my commitments and keeping my word. And so I kept my word. I fulfilled the 10-year contract. He paid me very, very well. I made more money working with him than I made with anybody else combined. So he told me if I stayed with him that he would that I would have nothing to worry about financially when I got older, and he was around the money. So, but our issues are basically philosophic. You know, that'd be like two football coaches saying, I want to run a 3-4 defense, and no, we're going to run a 4-3. And I can plead my case why the 3-4 is better because I got 4 great linebackers I can use, and he can tell me why the 4-3 is better because he's got 4 defensive down linemen that are outstanding. So our stuff is more philosophical than anything else, and then at the end of the day, he wins the argument more often than not because it's his company. And my dad taught me a long time ago, if you're going to work for somebody and you're going to take their money, then you need to do what they tell you to do. And so the day you don't believe that you can look yourself in the mirror and take and do what they want you to do, then you need to quit cashing their checks. And I cashed a WWE check just the other day, so I got no issues with it whatsoever. I got a great royalty check, so I have a lot of that stuff that McMahon and I have been blown out of proportion. He knows I take myself too seriously. He knows I wear my feelings on my sleeve, and he likes to be able to get under my skin, and he gets a kick out of it, and I can understand that, and I get it. So our relationship is fine. Now, no one should mistake what I'm saying that we talk regularly. We do not, but we still communicate, and we'll have a few laughs with each other on a text message or something like that, or a special occasion comes up. He doesn't forget special occasions, and neither do I. But we accomplished a lot together. That's what people cannot forget. We accomplished a great deal together. That talent roster that he gave me the ability to hire, they're still using a lot of those guys. And this that kid John Cena still working last I looked, and Randy Orton's still working last I looked, and Batista in and out, and Rock did pretty good a couple of WrestleMania. So we did accomplish a lot of great things together, and I never worked with anyone that worked any harder. And I ain't kissing his ass because I want a job. I don't need a job. I got plenty to do. And I watched my peers go through their money like they did cocaine and marijuana and booze and wives and bling, and decided I wasn't going to do that. I was going to actually save my money. And I had a plan to retire at 55. I'm 62, and I'm having more fun working now than I've had in probably since the Attitude Era. So I'm good, and that's thanks to Vince McMahon. So yeah, we butted heads and we had our pissing contests, but there's still a lot of respect there. And I think he knows if he ever got into a jam, I'm a phone call away. And I know that if I got into some sort of jam and I needed him for something, then I know the number. So it's not quite as bad as people thought, but was it tumultuous? Sure. Did we hate each other? Absolutely not. I had the balls to say, to tell him when I thought he was wrong in a polite way. And he had a lot of people that he paid a lot of money that were around him over the years that took the path of least resistance. They'd bitch about it afterwards when the decision was made instead of being polite and being diplomatic and conversing when they had the opportunity. And those guys, and if there are some of those guys are still there now, which I would assume that they are, then they should be ashamed of themselves because it's paying on damn good money to be honest. It's just the fact that some of them don't have real good presentation skills and don't know how to present themselves to make a dissenting point. And that's just the art of communicating.
Mike, you all right?
One thing that a lot of wrestling fans are critical of is WWE's usage of and dependence on the part-time superstars such as a Brock Lesnar or The Rock when he's an active competitor. What's your overall opinion on the emergence of the part-time superstar in wrestling today, and how well do you feel like WWE utilizes those guys?
Well, I think until you get some guys close to getting over, you gotta do all you can to get as many eyeballs watching your vehicle as you can, whether it's Monday Night Raw or a pay-per-view or subscribing to the network or whatever it may be. I think using some of these established stars that in a reoccurring role, that there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But I think that if you plan long term, you can use them more effectively with the thought in mind that they're coming back to help get somebody, make somebody better, whether as an ally or an enemy. And does that mean that your returning babyface has to come back and lose for that to happen? Not necessarily. And if you think that's the only way, then you're not really a student of the game. You're pretending you understand the business. Because I know of people that I've called a lot of matches where the guys that lost were over. They were better off leaving the ring as a loser in that match than they were entering the ring upon their introduction. So I think it's a smart thing to do because it helps to draw eyeballs to your sets, your television sets, and I think but they can be, I believe, more strategic in how they use these individuals, and that they should be used in ways that will help enhance some of the younger guys around them in a multitude of ways. That's like recently when Rusev was in the ring with Rock in Brooklyn. I loved the rub. I didn't like the bumps. An old school booker would never have allowed a part-time guy to come in and bump his building heel around the ring. It was unnecessary. You got them together. They looked at each other. They were in the ring together. They were about to go, and you got that the female Lana, whatever. All she had to do was step in the middle of them and order the Russian to leave, or the Bulgarian, or whatever the hell he is this week. It's simple. He would have had heat because he took orders from a woman. It's called chauvinism. He would have backed out of the ring with a glare in his eyes and looking at the Rock, who would have stood his ground and ready to go. And certainly the Rock is not going to lay a hand on the female, and he might give her a verbal lashing, but never a physical one. But then the heel would have left, backing out of the ring, backing up the ramp, and she would have finally Lana would have been with Rusev, and Rusev would have maintained some heat, but he would have backed out, and the announcer could have said he's picking his spots. Discretion on this day is a better part of valor. If you think that Rusev is afraid of Rock, then you're mighty wrong. Rusev's doing what he's told by this woman, who obviously has a bigger hold over Rusev than we ever dreamed. But someday, somewhere, the situation could manifest itself, and there won't be, and that's when the talking will be over. So easy to tell those stories, and but that's just a booking. That's a booking philosophy. Now, I can go to Vince in that meeting, in a meeting, and say, I think we're screwing up by having Rock punch this kid, and then he takes his big bump over the top, and then he stands 8 feet from me on the outside, fuming, and Rock looking down at him. Why aren't they fighting now? Well, that's the thing I don't get. Why are they? What is there, an invisible force field that's keeping them apart? It's bad booking, in my view. Philosophically, in my opinion, it's the wrong thing to do. But if the boss said this is what we want to do, then I'm the first guy at the head of the line and says, okay, I'm going to go out there and commentate it, and I'm going to try to make it as best I possibly can. But the issue is, at the end of the day, the announcers have got to make sure who's the guy they got to take care of. The heel. He's the one that's getting over. The other guy already kind of over if you hadn't noticed. So those are ways that you can get the rub, how you do it, when you do it, all that stuff is very subjective, and it's like saying what's your favorite color of blue, you know? Well, navy, Carolina, navy, pale, I don't know. So that's but I don't have an issue with using the established guys. You think people are going to bitch and raise hell if Austin comes back and works at WrestleMania in a year or two? Oh, that's just horrible. My God. He's taking someone's spot that should be on the card. I mean, it's a travesty. I'm 17 years old. I've been a wrestling fan for 15 years, since I was 2 years old, and I know that this is wrong. Okay, take it easy, Tiger.
Brandon Galvin.
There are many fans today have noticed that there appears to be a lack of focus on the wrestlers, the match, and even the storylines by the commentators. Is this something you pick up on as well? And could you explain why commentators may stray from what many feel is their ultimate task in putting over the wrestlers or the match?
Well, I still have my hearing, so I can still hear what they're saying. I'm not that old. And I philosophically, again, it's a philosophical deal, guys. Is it what I would prefer to hear? No. Is it what I prefer to broadcast? Nope. Why are they doing it? Because that's how they're produced, and that's what the boss wants them to do. So the announcers are doing as they are instructed to do, and that is what they should do. They should do what they're instructed to do. And when people get out and get full-time jobs, and some that have full-time jobs that hear this will absolutely understand what I mean. They'll know. Sometimes your boss tells you to do things that you know are not, that you feel you don't feel. You think there's a better way, but he's the boss. He's paying your checks, so you really are smart to do what you're told to do. And but yeah, I'm not a fan of the. I thought I told stories pretty well, but you know, people are saying now, well, it's JR's old school, and time's passed him by, and he was an old school play-by-play wrestling announcer. These guys are modern-day storytellers, and I thought that I told stories as well, but maybe some think I didn't.
I don't know what I don't know what the story they're telling are. Frankly, most fans do not enjoy what we're listening to. It's very hard to hear, and I'm not just putting Michael Cole on blast, but for example, when was the last? I can't even remember the last time I heard a proper move call. He just yells their name like Sheamus. It's like, no, that's a bro kick. Yell what the move is. Tell me what's happening in the ring.
Well, you know, I can't address that other than my sense of it is that the fellows are doing as they're instructed to do, as it's gone over in the production meetings, as to what they hear in their headset. They're following the instructions of the boss, and they're doing what he believes is how he wants his product represented. And so, you know, I feel badly. You know, I rarely talk to. I don't even remember the last time I talked to Lawler or Cole or JBL. I don't remember if I talked to them this year. Maybe I have and just forgot. But you know, I know they do what they're told to do, and I feel bad that people throw them on the bus and verbally beat them up on Twitter and other social media sites. But you know, unless you sit there, you know, ask Mick Foley or ask Taz. Ask guys that have been out there how challenging it can be. And Michael Cole's got the most challenging job that any of us that have sat in that middle chair have ever had, because of all the social media, the network, and all the extemporaneous things that you have to promote. So my style would not fit good in today's product. I'm very, very happy and very fortunate and very lucky that Michael's the one that's doing the play-by-play or storytelling of the lead guy instead of me, because I would not enjoy going to work every week and having to, it's like a shopping mall where you're promoting everything, and that's just not my style. And if you notice, Cole does most all of it. Lawler and Layfield do some of it, but Cole does the majority of it because that's his obligation. So I admire what Michael does, considering the hand that he's dealt. It's very, very hard to do. And he started out many years ago working with me, and when the styles were different. He knows the style, and he does a good job at it, but that's just not what he's doing. Again, I use football analogies. He knows what it's like to run the wishbone, but that's not what they run anymore. They're running a spread offense, and that's what he's obligated to do. So it's a tough. He's in a tough situation. A lot of fans don't like what they hear, but what they hear is what the announcers are told to do.
Okay, listen, final round of questions. We'll fly through these. Earlier this month, you mentioned it earlier, you announced for Battlegrounds MMA alongside Chael Sonnen. What were your thoughts on that experience, and what were some of the differences between calling a wrestling match and an MMA match, besides the fact that, like, you know what's happening as you go along?
Well, part of that you're not accurate on. You think you are, but you're not. There was a lot of wrestling matches I had no idea the outcome. I'd rather not know the outcome. Didn't need to know the nuances. I stopped a lot of agents in mid-sentence. Hey, I want to tell you what we're doing tonight. That's, wait a minute. If there's one small nuance I need to know that's imperative to the storyline, then tell me if you feel compelled. If not, I'd rather call it as I see it. So the people thinking, oh, JR knew everything was going to happen. Are you kidding me? You think I would try to remember every high spot, every false finish, every little zig and zag in a wrestling match with the volume of product that we did every week? I'd be in a rubber room somewhere. So I would rather just call it like a football game or a basketball game or baseball, just a sporting event. Put it on the monitor, and I'll describe what I see and what I feel. And so that's what we did. And I had a blast doing MMA. There will be Chael and I will be doing more MMA together. We're getting all kinds of inquiries on. Actually, we're getting inquiries on MMA and on boxing. So we have agents and we have representatives that are fielding these offers and having these talks with these people. So, but I see that. I sense that we're going to be doing a lot of things together. We like working together. We like each other. The chemistry was there automatically. He was my first. They hired me first because this group was an Oklahoma group, and they grew up listening to my work, and they knew I was a MMA fan. So I suggested Chael. They liked it. They hired him, and now we're going to be joined at the hip, we hope. But certainly the boxing potential is there, and the more MMA is there. So I had a lot of fun. I didn't prepare a lot differently. Our deal is real simple. I told Chael, I'll talk about the fighters as human beings, who they are, and what they are, where they're from, why I should care about them. Why should I give a damn about these guys? You talk about the fighters as fighters, what they're good at, what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are, and what their game plan is, what their game plan should be. So that's how we split it up. And then, every fight can't be the greatest fight ever. So, and we didn't crap all over those fights on that show, but we did have a little fun. We did, we added some levity to it because come on, it's entertainment. It wasn't like we were narrating or broadcasting some poor human being's chemotherapy treatment. It was an MMA fight, for God's sakes, and some of it was fun and some of it was serious, but we tried to pick our spots and make that good. So the MMA thing was fun. It was challenging. I can tell you that calling MMA is a little bit like old school pro wrestling, especially in the UWF, Mid-South, NWA era. But it's a lot more challenging than doing boxing. boxing is easier than MMA. Because boxing, you're either going to get hit with the right hand, the left hand, or occasional errant headbutt, but it's a right or a left. And in MMA and good pro wrestling, the attack can come from anywhere. So it's a little bit more challenging. But we had fun with it. It was a bucket list deal for me, and I want to do more.
Last two questions. Mike, you go first.
Yeah, transitioning back to wrestling for a minute, even though WWE and professional wrestling as a whole may not be in an ideal state currently in the minds of many, I think most would probably agree that there's a lot of talent involved in the business right now. And with that said, if you were tasked with building a wrestling company from the ground up, who would you choose as your cornerstone guy and why?
Oh man, the cornerstone guy would be someone with a lot of money, because I'm not going to spend any of my money on doing it, because I don't believe that it's very feasible. It would be some investment group that had a lot of money, because you just can't go pluck a guy out of midair and say, well, he's going to be my guy, because most guys are going to have contracts. And then the people say, I can't believe he didn't say CM Punk just automatically. I mean, that's just so stupid. JR is disconnected. He's not with it. I mean, or Steve Austin's not wrestling. Well, I'm not saying I wouldn't want CM Punk involved. That wouldn't be very bright. Or Steve Austin involved. What involvement is subjective. But you're really the foundation of what you need to make a wrestling territory successful is that there's two elements, talent and television. And there's enough talent out there that you can put together a roster to get you jump-started, especially if you change the procedure. Because I'm going to have time limits. I'm going to have more finishes. I'm going to have rules. I'm not going to have silly rules. I'm not going to go back to the 1920s. But how do you have what you want people to believe is an athletic contest that has no rules? It's ludicrous. So, and how are heels if they have no rules to break? It's illogical. So the first guy you want to have if you're going to do a wrestling company is a conglomerate of people with a lot of money and the patience to allow you to build your television audience, and you want to use any incumbents that have great name identity to get you over the hump while you're getting young stars over. And I don't know who those young stars are. I'd have to go back out there and really start evaluating. But I would want the guys that would be getting the most of the television time would be guys in their 20s.
BG, final question? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
We'd get young. Let me put it this way. We'd get young, would be athletic, and would have a little bit of that All Japan style back in the day, so that when someone delivered a body tackle or a clothesline, there was impact, and we wouldn't be using great finishes for high spots. The changing the philosophy of a few things. I'm not saying slow everything down to where you're going to lay in a headlock for 30 minutes either, but go back to fundamental common sense approach to the business, to where it's not a spot test, and encourage guys to learn how to sell. And selling's an art form. Learn how to sell and take your time. One of my big pet peeves, and people can think about me for various reasons, but when a wrestler mounts that second turnbuckle and has his opponent in the corner and he hits him 10 times in the face, it to me is one of the great exposés in wrestling. Number one, the guy doesn't fall until he's hit the 10th time. Number two, there's no marks on his face that even got hit. Number three, the guy that's striking somebody with their untaped fist he's not even selling his hand. So that tells me that a lot of those guys doing that have never really been in a fight. You can't hit somebody 10 times in the face without hurting your own hand. It's essentially impossible. So we would be a whole different structure, but it would still be modernized, basic fundamentals. But you'd want to build young, athletic, and physical. and that would be my mantra. But the most important element of building a wrestling company is your backers that have deep pockets, and preferably they own a television network, so that you're not preempted, and you got a great television time. And you certainly would not do a show that was over 2 hours. If it was just an hour, I wouldn't be raising it. When you first start, an hour might be your calling card, and then maybe once a quarter you do a 2-hour live special or something. But an hour doesn't kill me. I can take care of what I need to take care of in an hour and still get a rating.
BG, final question?
Since Stone Cold Steve Austin spearheaded the Attitude Era, playing a beloved anti-hero, the topic of a John Cena heel turn has been discussed for more than 5 years, with fans yearning for more of an edge from Cena. Do you think the hatred towards Cena is fair, with him trying to work as a babyface in the confines of a PG era?
Well, if John Cena turns heel, are the people that are booing him now going to cheer him? I don't know the logic. I don't know the answer. But you got, we love Cena. Cena sucks. He's still selling more merchandise than anybody on the roster for whatever he is. If he's a heel to some, I think part of that stuff is just trendy. I need a really good reason to turn Cena heel, and it's not because of crowd chants. Ticket sales, the live event business, his merchandise business, things like that are very good. I'm not a major fan of turning him heel, but I'm also at the same time not against turning him heel. But all those things have to be done for the right reasons. And we have to understand, too, that we're dealing with a wrestling public now that has very little patience. I saw somewhere the other day where somebody said, my God, I can't believe that Sheamus and the Usos they've been in 3 6-man tag matches. How much longer do we have to watch this? We've seen it 3 times already, for God's sakes. Really. I remember that'd be like saying, well, why would you want to see Rock and Austin 3 times at WrestleMania? Once is enough, for goodness sakes, don't you think? Well, we had it 3 times, and I read a story the other day. I was reading something about, I'm doing some more things for Fox, and I read a story where out of 52 Wednesdays, I believe it was Wednesdays, Dory Funk Sr. wrestled Iron Mike DiBiase 37 times. But they changed the matchup. They were performers that could change their game plan. They could change their story. They could change the presentation, and the people didn't get tired of it. And of course, they didn't have cable TV then. They only had 1 hour wrestling a week. But I find it somewhat head-scratching that people that call themselves wrestling fans and are really students of the game automatically get turned off if somebody wrestles more than once. Now, I will tell you that I have seen a lot of Randy Orton and John Cena, and I signed both those guys, and I have no regrets, and I'm so excited they've made a lot of money, and they've really taken care of their future through the jobs that we were able to facilitate for them. So I'm very, very proud of both guys. But I'm also very, very tired of seeing them wrestle each other. I'd like to see them wrestle other people, and I think it would invigorate them. So, and that's not saying anything bad about the guys. So I'm not riding the fence, but 3 matches is, if you're tired of something in 3 matches, you can easily say, well, it just wasn't very good and I didn't like it, so 3 times is plenty for me. But quite frankly, that's not a real good gauge of something in that regard. I think, but that's where we are, and that's why we have to have more people on the roster that they're trying to get over and give shots. That's why when they bring in guys from NXT, they got to bring them in as main event level guys, and then they go down a little bit. They go down a notch or so, then they're still in the hunt. If they bring them in as just another guy, it's a long journey from just being another guy to being a main eventer. You got to come in with a plan and a game plan and all that stuff. So I'm concerned about the lack of main event depth, but until you get more of that, you're going to see a lot of rematches and tag matches and things of that nature. I'd like to see less handicap matches. They're getting a little bit old. They used to be very, very special. They used to when you saw a handicap match, it really had the baby faces in jeopardy, a lot of trouble. Nowadays, it's just another match, and I think nothing should be just another match. Everything should have a story or a reason. And today it seems like things are planned short term and quickly, and they're not. There's not a reason for some things, but that goes back to long-term planning, and it's just hard to do, I guess. To me, that's what is most mystifying, is that long-term planning seems to be either non-existent or very sporadic.
It's incredibly sporadic. But listen, Mr. Ross, thank you so much for coming on the show today. A huge thanks to Hall of Famer Jim Ross for coming on the show. Please tell the fans where they can support you on Twitter, where they can buy your merchandise. I know you got some T-shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees now. And where can I get some delicious barbecue fixins?
Well, we're online with our barbecue and our ketchup, mustard, and barbecue sauces, two of those, ketchup. We have chipotle ketchup, sweet and smoky. We have jalapeno honey mustard, which is very good. And in North America, WWEshop.com is the place to go, WWEshop.com. Very customer service friendly, quick orders. I'd like to suggest that folks consider buying our products for holiday gifts. That would be a terrific way to end the year with a big holiday season. But WWEshop.com has the best packages, and I do a lot of signed pictures and artwork from Rob Schamberger on that I sign every picture. There's no stamped picture. I sign every one of them by hand. And so WWEshop.com. We're available in the UK at American Soda, a company called American Soda, and another company called Beyond the Ropes, and they sell in the UK and Ireland and Europe. So that's the deal on that. You're right about it. We're business partners in Chicago with Pro Wrestling Tees, ProWrestlingTees.com/Jim Ross. They got a bunch of new designs, and while they last, we're giving a free Ringside with Jim Ross T-shirt away with every new shirt that you buy. And they'd say they got every size, and I do know that they ship everywhere. So there's no limits on where they can be shipped, and virtually every size available. I'm on Twitter at JRSBBQ, which I enjoy. My wife says I enjoy it too much. And then, of course, the podcast that we do, the Ross Report, has just become terrific. I'm averaging about well over 500,000 downloads a week on one show. Some weeks we hit 1 million downloads, and that's at Podcast One, podcastone.com, or you can, of course, subscribe for free at iTunes, and you won't miss a show. It doesn't cost you a dime to subscribe. Downloading's free, and that helps us a bunch. So this, we're going to have this week. I have Mark Madden on as we record this. It's a real colorful interview from a former WCW color analyst who was there during the Monday Night Wars. The week after the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, I'll have Jason Powell on of ProWrestling.net to analyze the pay-per-view, talk a little TNA business, talk about New Japan's pay-per-view coming up, Ring of Honor, and whatever else is on our mind. So we will watch the pay-per-view, then we'll record the podcast, and it'll be up, but normally a new show drops every Tuesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern on Podcast One and on iTunes. So I'm staying busy. I've got we got about 70,000 words written in for my autobiography, which is going to be broken into 2 books, and that's been a lot of fun, a lot of hard work, research. There's just so many things that happened that you have to go back and do your due diligence. I want the book to be very honest and very upfront, and hopefully has some life lessons in it. My being a chubby guy with a southern accent with 3 bouts of Bell's palsy, I wasn't supposed to make it, and somehow I did, and we're going to talk about how that happened and some of the roadblocks and some of the challenges and things of that nature. So it should be good, because the first book will talk a lot about a tremendous amount about the territories and how the territories ran and some of the stories and the characters I met and what I learned riding in the car with these guys every night, and trying to live on $25 to $40 a day, all in. So it was quite the lifestyle. No rules, no drug tests, no athletic commissions to speak of, and the ones that were there were like the mafioso. They're just there to get their kickback. So it was it should be an interesting book, and I'm having fun writing it, and we hope to have that out in spring or summer of 2015. So things are good. I'm busy. Everything I'm doing, I'm having fun doing. I got some voiceover work I'm doing. As we record this, I did some voiceovers for Bill Simmons' Grantland NBA show, which airs on Thursday night. That's tonight, as we record this. And then on this coming Tuesday, ESPN's doing a 30 for 30 on Brian Bosworth called Brian Meets the Boz. I think it's called that, or Boz Meets the Brian. Beats Brian, one of the two. And I made the edit on that, so I'll be in that show on ESPN next week. When they hear this, it'll be this week. So in any event, staying busy, having fun, all good, healthy, feeling great, and I appreciate the fans following me on Twitter, and hopefully they'll buy some. If they think about us and they're looking for stocking stuffers or things like that for the holidays, we think our products are good suggestions. We say that with a great deal of bias, but in all seriousness, we think it's a good idea. So maybe that happens. We have a big holiday season, and we thank you for having us on.
Listen, a huge thanks to Jim Ross for coming on the show. Thank you so much for coming on our show. We feel very honored to have you on, sir. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, guys, take care of yourself. I appreciate you.